Well, thank you for choosing KTN News to inform you. We now want to have a conversation centered on the state of healthcare in the country, because despite the resumption of doctors to their workstations in various public hospitals across the country, health services are yet to normalize. And this is because clinical officers and medical laboratory officers are still on strike. They have down their tools due to a couple of issues that they want highlighted by the government in terms of their grievances. And we just want to get a status update on the progress so far. So in studio right now, I'm joined by Nicholas Odipo, who's the chairperson of Kenya National Union of Medical Laboratory Officers in the country, and equally joined by George Gibore, who's the Secretary General of the Kenya Union Clinical Officers right here in the country. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I know it's been a busy week. We're talking in the midst of an industrial action, but thank you so much for your time and coming to the studios. Let's begin with you, Odipo, because a lot has been happening ever since you downed your tools. We've seen some medical laboratory officers go to the streets, industrial action in terms of agitation of their grievances to be heard by the government. Let's start with the latest so far. Is there any progress in terms of the negotiations between the government, in terms of the all-government approach which we've seen, and the union representing the medical laboratory officers?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Jesse. Unfortunately, the government has not engaged us in any discussion. Despite the fact that they are lying to the public that they have engaged us, because there was a time the CS Health was asked in the National Assembly and the Senate, and she said that she had already engaged us and given a direction on what we were supposed to do. I have not seen that engagement because I have not been called to the Minister of Health to do any form of engagement. Those who have engaged us are 6 counties.
Okay. And
in these counties, we have managed to sign a recognition agreement with them. Because basically, this, our strike, the irreducible minimum is about a recognition agreement that must be signed as per the law. Without a recognition agreement, then we'll not be able to go back to work, because we had already sent that request, especially the Minister of Health. We sent that request in 2021. We again reminded them in 2023, at least thrice. But they have been treating those requests with contempt. So, where I sit, I don't understand why the Minister of Health is not able to sign with us a recognition agreement, because this recognition agreement do not require any monetary issue. Okay. It doesn't require much time, because this is something that they were supposed to have forwarded to their legal department for approval. And we sign it. It can only take around 5 minutes to sign that recognition agreement, and we are through with this issue.
And why is this minimum requirement? What are you seeking to accomplish once this recognition agreement is signed, briefly?
Now, as per the Labor Relations Act, for you to negotiate a collective bargaining agreement with your employer, you must have signed a recognition agreement.
Okay.
So for now, we cannot forward any collective bargaining agreement to the employer for a negotiation. So that's the reason why we want it to be signed, so that we can also start the process of that collective bargaining agreement, because our members are waiting for us to give them that CBA. Yes.
Okay, that's well noted. Let's cross over to the clinical officers who are still on strike. Gibore, thanks so much for your time. And we're talking at a time when negotiations are ongoing. What's the latest in terms of the plight of the clinical officers in the country? Is there light at the end of the tunnel, or you're still at the same place you were over 30 or 40 days ago when the strike started?
Thank you, Joseph, first for inviting us at least to highlight these key issues. And we are talking about health, which is more of a determinant to the progress of any country in terms of economical growth, because then if you spend a lot of time in terms of being sick, seeking medication, then you lose your productivity, productive time. Now, we as a clinical officer, we are doing day 52 of our strike.
Okay.
And the strike is still on because we have not been able to iron out all the issues that we brought on the table. We had 10 demands. Yes, we have been engaging the ministry, and actually we have made some progress on a number of issues. A key issue is like the ministry now has managed to actually have our career progression guideline approved, which is a key document that informs the enter-job group and also the progression of any professional and their exit point. Two is that we have managed also to negotiate on the CBA part that had actually stagnated, and we have ironed out all the clauses that we are not able to agree. The only issue remaining, which the ministry has agreed with us, is on the risk allowance that we negotiated in 2013 and 2021, and it is an item also on the CBA, because that's the only monetary clause that that has been flagged probably for consideration, which the ministry agreed with us in 2021 that being the most, or rather the highly exposed practitioners, they agreed to improve our risk allowance from 3,000 to 15,000. So that's an increment of around 12,000, which we have computed very well, so that then someone should not be shocked that what is that? The figure which we require the whole year is 980 million.
For the risk allowance? For
the risk allowance, yes. The whole year, for both the county and the national government.
Yeah.
Like the ministry only need around 10 million. If you separate for all the counties, they need between 17, the highest require around 38 million, which is Nairobi that has the highest number.
Okay.
But a majority is between 17 to around 25 million. And those are negligible for any county that receives billions, especially taking into account that these are matters of health. Now, we still have many other issues pending that we have not been able to agree. Our interns, in terms of, we are claiming that they must be paid as per the approved staff establishment, and also ignore the SRC advisory that they be paid a lump sum, or rather stipend, of around the degree 50 and the diploma they are paying now 3,500. It's against the approved staff establishment. We have not also agreed on the UHC staff. These staff are staff that were employed during COVID time.
Yes.
They bailed this country when we were in our most need. Actually, this country needed them most. When everyone was working from home, the healthcare workers were working, exposing themselves, meeting the patient who had already been exposed to, or rather had COVID.
Yes.
We lost a number of them. Now, the only gift this government will have given to this staff, because they are just receiving also a peanut, let me call it a stipend of around 50, actually a majority around 40, and others 50.
Okay.
For those who have degree and diploma and the certificate. So these staff have been worked for 3 years. They finished their first term last year, okay. And they extended for 1 year.
Okay.
In accordance to the advisory of the SRC, of the Public Service Commission. Now, our expectation was that the ministry, with the council governors, the counties, allocate resources to put them on permanent and pensionable, so then they harmonize their terms of payment. We have had them, even the recent past. We had one of our clinician actually taking her life and her daughter's life because they cannot be able to meet their basic needs. And they have been struggling. You can't even pay medical bills. it is actually a push to mental anguish, so to say. Others will call it depression, but me, I look at it, it is something that has been pushed to them and some subsequent mental anguish.
Okay.
And this is a suffering that people must be, the government must be deliberate. And I believe when you talk about health and looking at even the projection that we are seeing with the current budget, where there is a lot of deduction from the ministry, the budget for health.
Allocated to health, yeah.
I must say it very clear that we have a government that is losing direction in terms of what Kenya need most. You can't take away hope that people have and replace it with fear or replace it with hopelessness. If you see healthcare workers in being helplessness, that we feel like we have no one to listen to our complaints, and you expect them to be stable, to see patients and give hope to patients, I think then we are losing direction. So I'm saying in a simpler word that we have talked and we have had several meetings, actually to be precise 3 meetings with the Council of Governors, but we have not agreed. Yes, we are coming up with a return to work. We believe we'll be having another meeting tomorrow, and subsequently there's another one on Friday. We hope then that can bear fruits so that we are able to go back. And you'll see health sector has more than 17 professionals. Even when you resolve the issues of the medical officers, the doctors, they go back, they are just 5,000. With a population of over 50 million, clinical work, we share clinical work with the medical officers.
Okay.
So the patient I see, there's no medical officer sees them. So in any case, now with the absence of like our anesthetists, theaters are closed. I think you saw the circulation of some of the facilities are now not operating. They are there, yes, they went back, but they can't do because we have to work synergetically.
Exactly.
It's unfortunate that now county has resorted even to force interns to purport to be the one sitting in the outpatient to see patient against what is the guidelines.
Okay. So it's good to know there's a little bit of progress.
Yes.
Return to work formula is ongoing. But Odipo, there's some issues that converge in terms of the clinical officers, laboratory officers, when it comes to risk allowance and whatnot. They are pushing for an increment, is it? And you're pushing for risk allowance, actually. Why not synergize and work together? Is it possible for this unions within the health sector to sit down at the table with the government, sort of a one approach from the health sector, just the same way we are seeing a one approach from the government? Because they might be using divide and conquer tactics. So what do you say about that?
No. If you define a union, which says that you have to present a particular group of people in a particular trade.
Okay.
We are different. We might be looking for one factor, but our trade, we apply it in different fields. Even though we have been working together until the time for the strike. See, when you're issuing a strike, you cannot issue a strike as 2 unions. You go as one, unless you converge and form a federation of unions.
I get you.
That is when now we can say, I and Gibore, we can work together.
Okay.
But by law, we are not supposed to work together. We can only synergize ourselves. But when we go to meet the employer, then we meet the employer as a union. So there's no divide and rule per se, but what is worrying us is the content. Because if theirs is going on, ours is at standstill, and even nobody cares about the existence of that strike. But there's one thing that I had already told you about the emergency services. When we were going for strike, we left some of our colleagues that were offering blood transfusion services. And blood transfusion services, normally it is a very critical component in healthcare services. So we said that you guys, you can help as we go to to the streets
to
to
fight
fight,
disaster,
yes,
yeah.
to avert a disaster. But now that the ministry has decided not to engage us, it is like they are comfortable. They are not feeling the effect of the strike. We told those people, our colleagues, that now you have to shut down the blood banks. And from now, they had already started, they shut down the doors of the blood banks on Monday. Let me assure you that within this week, there will be a public outcry. Because you see now, what we normally do is different with what Kinagibore does.
Yes.
Right now, the doctors are back at work, but there's minimal activity going on because the doctors relies on the lab to give them guidance on what they're supposed to do. The private sector, by virtue that we are going to shut down the blood banks,
Yes.
are going to be affected. When doctors were on strike, people were going to the private sector and things were moving normal. But in our case, the private sector relies on us
I get you.
to give them blood. So the moment we shut down that one, the private, the ripple effect will spread to the private sector. And it's going to be very, very dangerous. Because the moment the ripple effect reaches them, and that is the only backup plan
Okay.
that people have as a country when the public is on strike, now they will not have any backup plan. Yeah.
Understandable. So, and you mentioned irreducible minimum recognition.
Recognition agreement.
Is it just that? Because you were pushing for a couple of issues, including employment of 10,000 additional laboratory officers. What are the boxes that the government needs to tick in order for the medical laboratory officers to return to work?
Now,
Yes.
one thing that we will not go without is a recognition agreement. That one is a must.
Okay.
And that one we are not going to compromise anything. We are not even going to accept that give us time. We have to sign a recognition agreement.
Okay. Two.
Number two is the issue of promotions and redesignation of our members. Yes, because we have counties that have really messed up our members,
Okay.
whereby people work for 10, 12, 13 years without promotion. You are earning the same salary that you are employed with. So that one, we must also have it on the table.
Noted.
Before we return back to work. I also spoke about the comprehensive medical cover. Right now, as we are aware, the NHIF is not helping our members. And even if it were there, NHIF cannot cover you comprehensively. And we found a situation whereby our members are suffering when they fall sick. And our members fall sick very easily because of the exposure they're getting from the patients. And you see, even the PPEs that we are supposed to use to prevent or to minimize infection spread is not available.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah? So we must get that comprehensive cover. That one is also a reducible minimum. Number 4 is about the risk allowance. As Gibor is negotiating for enhancing, we are only requesting them to reinstate. It was there. It is not that it is something that has never been there.
Yeah.
But somebody somewhere decided to get it out of us.
When was it withdrawn?
We realized that it was withdrawn 2 years ago.
Okay.
When people were promoted to Job Group K. That's when now there's no risk allowance. The ones at Job Group J and H and G have the risk allowance.
Yeah,
But the moment you are promoted to Job Group K, the risk allowance is not there. So we are telling them that they must reinstate that risk allowance.
Okay.
Then on the issue of the 10,000, that one we can now see how to compromise because we cannot. It is something that cannot be done overnight. We understand that, but they must give us a clear guideline on how we are going to they are going to employ the 10,000, because there are a lot of shortage in the country, and our members are being overworked with this shortage. But now, it is not even about the members being overworked. You see, the moment you are overworked, then even the quality of services you give is compromised. Yes. So they should stick to the Article 43 of the Constitution of Kenya that requires the government to give quality and affordable healthcare services. Yes.
Gibore, as we finalize now, because a lot has been said and done, you've mentioned that you're still on the negotiating table. Return to work formula might be coming, hopefully in the next few weeks or so. So sooner rather than later, if I can put it that way. What is the issue currently on the table that needs to be addressed so we can finally hear, breaking news, clinical officers back to work? What issues haven't been highlighted that we might need to highlight right here as members of the Fourth Estate so we can actually push this in terms of a resolution coming?
As I have said, there are sticky issues that we have not been able to agree. The UHC issue, in terms of transitioning them to permanent and pensionable. We really need to get a clear way forward in terms of how to handle those people. And we have done our best, including now having had the Council of Governors as citing the decision of the Intergovernmental Coordination Summit, which is chaired by the President, who made a decision to extend their contract for 3 years in the same punitive term. We have done an appeal to that summit. We believe then that they can consider that position and consider it as a... We have engaged actually the ministry, also the Council of Governors. And the Council of Governors are saying they are willing to take them at a harmonized position, a harmonized term, so that then they should not be complaining of being discriminated. And that's to mean if only the Treasury can provide funds. So then that caps is that we have had this problem, and every time we complain at the council, the counties say they don't have money. The ministry says we are not the one handling health. This issue of devolved function, as they continue to claim, and you will see it, is that Council of Governors, they will say that health is devolved fully when they are convenient, when it's their convenience, when they're happy about whichever is happening. But when it's not working well, they will just lag and say it is the Minister of Health. The Minister of Health continues to say. So we have a bigger problem, and our call has been that the President need actually to maybe take a lead. He's the one who is leading this country and say, hey, listen here, we have been we went to devolution. We are doing more than 10 years, actually 12 years. Let me say, more than 14 years. What is it that we have not done well? What have we learned with the implementation of the Constitution? Then do and hold it. And we are calling for a health audit. Then we realize that we have had numerous strikes in the health sector. And all the issues are similar. Promotion, delayed payment, arrears, CBA issues. And everyone is like, we have no center that is holding. So if the center is holding, then the only thing to do is to come back and actually say candidly that we need to take a decision. Whether it is painful to the county, whether it's painful to the people who normally do business with the sector, then we need to make a decision, because in any case, when we lose people, the people we are losing when we are on strike, by virtue of not being able to make a decision centrally, they will never wake up to come and celebrate any changes or reform that come in their sector. The biggest problem we have beautiful laws, beautiful policies, implementation become the problem, because in any case, no one is owning up. So can't it then be reasonable that we, the union, are a pro-government, actually more of calling the government on what they need to do so that they can be productive?
But I thought the whole government approach means that you have a representative from COG there, from ministry there. So this blame games will look bad on their end because they're all there. It's represented.
I think this is more what I can call rhetoric than action. Because one, look at even when they were negotiating with the KMPDU.
All right.
They negotiated at the central place, but at the end of the day, the decision was made at the Council of Governors, and because that is what the law is.
Yes.
So these other things, there's no basis. And that is why we say, until we realize that there is a problem in the sector, even if we postpone this problem will never go away. It is like actually covering, or rather,
it under
the
carpet,
covering maybe a snake that it will change to be fish. It will never be. It's still a snake, and it will not turn.
Okay.
So this problem is not going to change until it is well addressed. Let me finish and say this.
Yes.
That we need a government that really look into the need of the poor people. Invest properly in the health sector. If indeed we have put policy like SHA, the FIF, the digital health, the primary health care, how do we functionalize them without money, now that we are deducting even the budget that is supposed to be allocated to health? If indeed the problem is about who is to make a decision and who is to carry what, to do what, then let's centralize the management of the health sector so for us to get a way forward. Otherwise, I think this fight is on, and we'll continue being on strike. Even if we call it off tomorrow or suspend it tomorrow, I can guarantee for Kenyan that this thing will still be back, and it will come back to bite us.
So we definitely don't need to sweep things under the carpet,
Yes.
Resolve them inconclusively. And it's really proper to note that the government has shown good effort, at least with the clinical officers. It's a game of wait and see for the laboratory officers and see whether their plight will be heard. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. And we truly hope for white smoke, as it's usually said, so Kenyans can stop suffering, especially those who need medical care in public health facilities across the country. Nicholas Odipo, I hope the struggle continues, but it's not for long. He's the chairperson of the Kenya National Union of Medical Laboratory Officers right here in the country, and we're equally joined by George Gibore, the Secretary General of the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, who mentioned that they're still in negotiations with the government, and hopefully a return to work formula will be coming soon once they tick all the boxes that are needed. Gentlemen, all the best. Allow us to leave that interview at that particular note. We shift focus to other matters. Thank you for watching.